WWE is cooking up something massive for Raw, plus some releases. We're going to talk about it all right here on the Ango Show. Don't forget, I'm giving away this championship belt once we hit 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today. Alrighty, everybody, super big day for WWE. We're going to talk about it, and we will be live after WWE Raw, so don't forget about that. I want to kick things off with some very interesting news surrounding Sasha Banks. Now, we talked about Sasha Banks the other day. Bayley was obviously teasing something. Now, this isn't a report necessarily, but Ibu from Wrestle Purist came out with a series of tweets, and I want to talk to you guys about it. He says Mercedes may go back to WWE. And a follow-up tweet with that, he says, "This is not a formal report yet. It will become one if I have enough information to provide something concrete and substantial. This is a situation that should be monitored, though." And then in an additional follow-up, somebody did tweet out to him saying, "Hey, do you think she comes to AEW first?" He responds with, "I don't know." The word from their side the entire time is that she's expected to work with them when healthy. She was still in a boot when Grand Slam happened. Very few people have updated information on the AEW side regarding the status of this expected partnership. Rocky Romero himself doesn't know exactly when and where her next move is, and he is the liaison. There is no reported heat between the parties, though, but Mercedes is a very vague and unpredictable person. Now, this is interesting, right? Because Sasha Banks coming back to WWE, it makes a lot of sense. One of the big things, too, is that she is technically not cleared to wrestle yet, and that obviously could change in a series of time, but you got to factor that in, right? When you see that Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado, Mercedes Moné, whatever you call her as, when you see that she's in a boot, she's pretty much in limbo. I find it very interesting that Bayley was teasing something, and obviously we know that we've seen her at All In on screen. We know that Tony Khan has mentioned having talks with her. Look, I fully predict that Sasha Banks will be back in WWE at some point. Now, perhaps she goes to AEW, does some AEW New Japan stuff for a little bit longer, then comes back. But I think people eventually find their way home. And you got to remember, this is a Vince-less WWE. Vince McMahon isn't in the WWE. This is not a situation where Vince McMahon is running creative in the WWE. Yes, from a legal standpoint, technicality standpoint, he is involved. But from a creative standpoint and a product standpoint, he isn't. And because of that, I think due to the nature of that, you're starting to see Triple H really, he's not even talking about a women's evolution. He's just simply doing it. If you've been watching WWE's main roster for the last few weeks or even months at this point, last month and a half, 2 months, you're starting to see a difference in the way that the women are being introduced. And obviously, if you're Sasha Banks, if you're Naomi, that is probably something that you're looking at. And from there, I could see WWE bringing them both back, actually. And look, if CM Punk could come back out of all people, then Sasha Banks could come back, and that's not an issue at all. I fully expect that to happen at some point anyways. I want to turn our attention to some WWE talent releases. Definitely went under the radar. But Sean Ross Sapp noted on Fightful Select that WWE did not officially confirm the releases, but it was confirmed now. Excuse me. So basically, for those who missed it, Alex Lete, Olivia Ash, and G. Iberno, and others that fans online have surmised as released, WWE didn't officially confirm them in September, but sources did confirm to Fightful that it was the case. Now, you have to really understand that right here, this is an interesting situation because with WWE, typically they would confirm releases, and typically they have. It's been a long time since WWE has posted anything on WWE.com in regards to releases. But obviously, when you're looking at NXT talent and people that have come in, WWE has tried to bring people in, and maybe they haven't even been put on TV, but WWE tries to bring them on to the company. They train them, they try to develop them, and some of them never see television. Now, in this case, I know G. Iberno, she was on WWE television before as like an extra. I follow her on social media and I see what she posts. She does like some sort of martial arts stuff. Obviously, that never made it to TV, right? So WWE either didn't think they were developing quick enough, or WWE didn't see a future for them in the company. Now, with that being the situation, you just got to keep in mind, like, that's going to keep happening, especially with the NIL program being a new thing for WWE, bringing in undeveloped people with no experience, right? WWE is going to get to the point where they just simply don't feel like it's worth investing in them anymore. And look, I don't think there's a problem with that at the end of the day. A lot of people, and you have to factor this in, a lot of people have gone to WWE from collegiate sports or whatever the case may be. They didn't pan out, and they never wrestle again. And it was the same thing that we saw with Tough Enough. So ultimately, if WWE's got to cut their ties with people because they're not getting ready for television, they're not developing, they're not getting better, at that point, it makes sense. I did find it to be very odd that WWE has taken so long to confirm these releases, but it kind of makes sense, especially if you look at their social media activity. I know one funny thing with Alexis Leti, or I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but I know with her, she was the person that was infamous for going on TikTok, making TikToks, and she called Solo Silicona or something. Like, she butchered everybody's names. Instead of calling the North American Championship, she called like the North. Like, dude, she just butchered everything. Like, she didn't watch the product. She wasn't familiar with the product. And that led to some funny comments from Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade and many others. So at the end of the day, there's people that are going to be working there that once they leave, they never show up anywhere else. And there's people, that maybe weren't given an opportunity and they do go somewhere else and they do something like Ty Conti, right? So like, that's just a good example of somebody who was maybe underutilized or not very much utilized, and she continued to stick with it, and she's actually a cool part of AEW. With that being said, though, I want to turn our attention to the final topic of today's video. WWE announced that WWE Raw first hour will be 100% commercial-free. They've already made some announcements with the Tag Team Turmoil match, which is absolutely stacked. Randy Orton's return, CM Punk's return, now Boozer Wrestling, the guy who essentially broke the news that CM Punk had meetings with WWE and was coming back. He dropped some very significant tweets today, letting the world know that WWE Raw will be kicking off with a massive, massive, massive opening, as well as a massive ending to close out the show. WWE has a lot of things in the work for tonight's episode, and they are expected to essentially deem this as a new wave for WWE Raw. I don't know if this means new stage, new intro, whatever it may be. But WWE clearly has some massive things planned for tonight's show. They have some massive surprises planned for the show. And thank the Lord, man, because WWE Raw has been on fire lately. But this is like a new chance for WWE. Like, we know that WWE's been pretty damn good this year. But for those who kind of fell out of love with WWE, maybe they start to fizzle out a little bit. Tonight is a chance to bring them back in. And that is obviously very important for WWE. We will be live after WWE Raw on the Ango show, so don't forget. And guys, if you want, go ahead and follow me on X right there, Ango PW. And I'm giving away this championship belt at 100,000 subscribers, so if you want a chance to win, go ahead and click subscribe today.